everyone. This is part 2 of the Picky Eater live. I did another live 2 days ago, but I got interrupted, didn't get to answer all the questions, and so I'm just coming on to answer the rest of my questions, answer any questions that are here live, and talk a little bit about picky eating from my perspective. We're going to talk about blood sugar regulation, we're going to talk about mood and behavior, and we're going to talk about how to start making the changes so that your child eats what you put in front of them, because this is amazing. This has so many benefits. If you could just hand your child a plate of food and they would gobble it all up, how good would that feel? It feels really good. It happens to me all the time, and I've been talking about this over the past couple weeks because my course, Feeding Picky Eaters, is on sale, and the sale ends tonight, and it's $100 off, and you get the free cookbook plus the free meal plan and a masterclass around your emotions and eating. And so this is a really great value for you because working with a nutritional therapist is expensive, and you want to gain all of these resources for yourself and integrate them into your life. And so for $199, you can have all of this until tonight at midnight. And I run these specials during the holidays because it's fun too, and I want moms to have it. So I'm really glad that you're here. And if you put the little heart into the comment section, or, press heart on here, it lets other people on Instagram know that this is happening and shows that people want to be here. So that helps me out a lot. Thank you. And you're welcome to put your questions in the chat as we go along. And I expect that a lot of you are probably like, maybe you're nap trapped and you're under her baby right now who's nursing, or you're cooking, or you're preparing something. A lot of my content, I want it to be like that. I know I teach to busy moms, and so I want you to be able to put me on in the background and listen and just chime in when you have a thought that comes up. So, picky eating, what the heck is going on? Why do we have picky eaters? Why did your child become a picky eater? Well, it has a lot to do with your generational health that you've inherited, right? So I teach about this idea of the microbiome and how it's passed down from generation to generation. And with every generation and new level of toxins, or the testing out of the birth control pill, or increase in use of antibiotics, the microbiome is degraded further. And so now children are being born today with dysbiosis, or with a really imbalanced gut microbiome. And the gut microbes actually can form our palates and shape what foods taste good and what foods taste bad. And so my approach to picky eating is all about a microbiome perspective. So not only are we dealing with a picky eater, but we're actually dealing with sugar addiction, which is directly tied to your child's gut health. So we don't have to be too worried about this, because I don't want you to hear this and think oh, I'm doomed. Oh, it's too late. Oh, I can't start, because you absolutely can. I was an adult when I learned about my gut flora and started to heal it. And I was privileged enough to learn about this information before I had my babies. And so I worked on their gut health preconception, right? And so both my husband and I did this, and they are, in this case, a true testament to what happens when you birth your babies with a healthy gut microbiome and a digestive system that works and can digest nutrients. But with my son, he was born by cesarean, which was not my choice and not what I really wanted to happen. And unfortunately, that also meant antibiotics in birth and medications in birth. And so I work with a ton of moms who have this similar scenario: C-section births, medication at birth, antibiotics at birth, and I really teach starting solids in a way that builds the digestive tract and the gut microbiome. But I also have this group of moms, or maybe an older sibling, or, it's just kind of come into my awareness oh, I really want to help children who struggle with picky eating, because this is a gut microbiome issue, and we can't just, change the color of their Pop-Tart or change the shape of their sandwich and get them to become more adventurous eaters. We have to address this on a physiologic level. We have to address this in the body. We can't ignore the body. If it's a symptom that has to do with eating, how could we possibly ignore the body and get the results that we're seeking? And so in my Picky Eaters course, I teach you how to slowly and stealthily and gently start to change the family culture of your gut microbiome and the family culture of food. I see picky eating as a family affair. I don't think it's ever fair to put a child on a healing protocol without having the mother and hopefully the father go through it first, because one, it's going to make you better able to be their teacher, their leader, their parent, their loving guide, because you're going to understand what it feels like to start changing your microbiome yourself. And also, we can't ask our children to do things without also stepping up and doing them ourselves. That's just never going to work, right? We all know our children do what we do, not what we say. And I have learned that again and again with my kids, and all the things that we do really well and the things that we are still struggling with, right? Like my 2-year-old does what I do, not only what I say. He's a good listener, but he mostly does what I do. So with picky eating, you have to really work with the whole family of food. The whole family's food. You know, it's not fair for one person to just be eating meat stock and everyone else to still be eating French fries. And I think that our children really take to this. One of the things that I was so touched by when I first started teaching this course is that just by making the step of homemaking their favorite food, children were so excited, they were engaged, they could even help making the food, and they were so much more willing to eat it. Okay? And that's just wonderful. So first step would be like, let's make homemade versions of those favorites. Those homemade foods are automatically going to be more nutrient dense because the ingredients are things that you can actually list, whereas a packaged food is going to be something that you can't even pronounce, and those foods are going to be impacting your child's microbiome, their blood sugar, how well they can digest their foods. And this is something that we want to get ahead of as moms. We want to be helping them digest their foods properly, helping them build a healthy immune system, enjoying their food, enjoying their life, feeling really good. And so today I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that blood sugar piece. But just remember in your mind, as you're thinking about joining the course, like, yeah, I'm going to learn to be a better cook. I'm going to make some foods that is really enjoyable. I'm going to make some homemade versions of some foods that I already know my kid likes. And we're going to start there and see how that goes. So that's one of the things that I teach about in the course. Blood sugar. Let's talk about blood sugar. So you probably have heard about blood sugar. You probably either heard about it in the context of something like diabetes, or you maybe have heard the word insulin thrown around, or you maybe know about hunger, which is when you're so hungry and you're angry because you need to eat now. And our little toddlers can feel that way. Our young children can feel that way. They can have dysregulated blood sugar. And dysregulated blood sugar is such a problem because it impacts your brain. It impacts your energy, your mood, your sleep. And we want all of those things to be optimal, right? We don't want to be struggling with blood sugar dysregulation. So essentially what's going on when your blood sugar is dysregulated is that you are having either your blood sugar is too high or it's too low. And if you have blood sugar imbalances, you likely have different points of this throughout the day. So essentially, humans are metabolically flexible. So our metabolism is how we create energy to function. And we can burn fat or we can burn sugar. Glucose is the form of sugar that we burn. So glucose goes into the cell goes into our mouth through our food, and then it's broken down to usable energy for the body. Well, when we have too much glucose to the body, our blood sugar spikes up really, really high. And then there's a hormone that's released called insulin. And the job of insulin is to take all of that sugar and put it into the cells so that it can be used. But if there's too much sugar in the blood, and we have a very short range of how much sugar should be in the blood, which is about 1 teaspoon of sugar should be in the blood at all times. If it goes higher than that, then our body starts to freak out. It pumps out as much insulin as possible, and eventually the cells will say, I can't do anything with this, no more. And that's how you become insulin resistant. And that is the step, the pre-diabetic step. And that's the thing that you might be hearing more about right now. Everyone is kind of talking about this, I think because of Ozempic, but also because 1/3 of, it's so funny, the statistics, like 1/3 of Americans are pre-diabetic and the other 2/3 have diabetes. So we're all kind of in this boat that is really unfortunate because of how much it affects our mood. Like so many times I'm driving and I'm just like, or I have a weird interaction at the store and I'm like, dang, that's low blood sugar. Like if that person had their blood sugar regulated, they wouldn't be so frustrated. They wouldn't have made that stupid mistake. They wouldn't have been so rude, you know? So I see it all around me and I can feel it in my own body. If my blood sugar's dysregulated, it rarely happens these days because I consume so much animal fat, and animal fat is the alternative form of fuel for our body. So we can either burn sugar or we can burn fat. And when you're used to burning animal fat or fats from your food, then you can stay stable for longer. Your blood sugar stays stable. So this is like why someone would say, like, have a balanced meal with plenty of protein and fat and some carbohydrates, because we want the blood sugar to stay stable. But what the heck does this have to do with our children? Well, our children are starting every single day with refined carbs, most likely. So the majority of children are starting their day with refined carbohydrates, and a refined carbohydrate is something like rice or pasta, but for breakfast it would be cereal or a baked good, even like the healthy flours, oatmeal, oat flour, all of that, those grains get broken down into glucose in the body, and they can actually spike, like oats, for example, can spike your blood sugar higher than a tablespoon of sugar. Same with white bread. It can spike your blood sugar really high. So you've got this whole thing going, your blood sugar spiking up really, really high. And then after a while, your body runs out of glucose and whoop, it drops and you go way down and you have the low blood sugar feeling. And so that is when you have the feeling of anxiety, or even some depression can come on. It's like a really flat, low tone. You feel shaky. You feel like you're going to pass out. You feel like I have to eat now. And our children might not have the words for this, but they are going to express it in maybe a tantrum or a meltdown, or they might say like, I feel really bad, or they might snap, right? And that's because their blood sugar is not stable. They've started the day with something too sugary, which has put too much sugar in their blood too fast, and they're on this sugar high, and then they drop. So then what do people do? They reach for something sugary, because that's what the body is in an emergency state. It's telling them, grab sugar. We need sugar right now for the fuels. It's like our quick sprint energy. So the sugar is going to start to be pulled from the muscles if it goes too long. But basically the idea is like, give the body some sugar. Okay, so then we go and we have this, we're low and we dip and we go high again, and we eat something else like a cookie or a coffee, and that brings our blood sugar high again, and then we have an hour or so before it drops, and we're just on this roller coaster all day long, and it's mixed with our emotions, and it might feel like anxiety, and it's just really, really intense. So over time, what is this doing? It's creating a state of inflammation in the body, and this is the danger, because it's inflaming our brains, and it's inflaming really whatever organ on you is like constitutionally weaker, which just means like what you're born with. So it can affect different people in different ways, but a lot of people, it's impacting their brain, giving them brain fog, giving children ADD. They can't sit still, they can't focus, they're having behavioral issues, right? Like all of that is related to the physiologic state of the body. So the other thing, take a sip of water. The other thing about processing glucose is that we need nutritional cofactors in order to turn the glucose into usable energy by the body. Nutritional cofactors are vitamins and minerals. And so when we're eating a diet of highly refined, I will absolutely save this live, yes. When we're eating a diet of highly refined carbohydrate foods like processed foods, or even healthy whole grains made up of the majority of our diet, we are not getting the nutritional cofactors that help us to convert that energy well enough. So then our brain starts to starve because we don't have the breakdown of nutrition that our body actually needs, okay? Wow. So blood sugar dysregulation is a huge reason why your kid, your picky eater, might be craving sugar all the time. That's one piece of the picture. And so if we can just start to play around with their macronutrients and help the body to balance out by giving them more proteins and fats, putting these kinds of food forward, we are going to see a big change in behavior. And behavior is one of the main reasons I am so dedicated to nutrition for children, for parents, okay? Because good nutrition makes parenting easier. Parenting is already hard enough, okay? A lot of us are villageless. We're not around family. Thank God if you are. I moved to the East Coast to be closer to my family, and it makes a big difference. But regardless of that, I don't have helpers all day long. A lot of times we have to pay for help, and it's hard, right? It's a wonderful life, but it's hard. If my child was physically ill or struggling with being able to eat properly, that is just going to make the problems multiplying the amount of issues, right? It's making it so much harder, making it so much worse. So when we focus on giving our kids good nutrition and we optimize their digestion and the environment that they eat in, so we eat with like so much gratitude and abundance, and we start to heal the physical body, everybody feels so much better, everybody sleeps better, and therefore parenting is easier. So one of the main things that I've seen is my son, like, I can tell if he has a weird ingredient, if we've gone out to eat. I can tell if he had something he wasn't supposed to, in terms of like, just, we're on the GAPS nutritional protocol. So this is a step further that I teach in my other courses, not in the picky eating course. But with GAPS, there's a strict period of healing that you have to be really disciplined for, and it's worth it. It's totally worth it. It has changed our lives completely in the best way. But if something sneaks in, it makes it really obvious when you're like, oh, wow, that's a reaction, and it can really impact behavior, which is so interesting. And so I love to have my moms that I work with track this and start to really connect the dots between what's going on with the gut flora and what's going on with the foods that are put in the mouth. This is like this is an ecosystem that lives inside of us. And when you understand that 90% of the cells in our body are bacterial cells, it would make sense that taking care of those microbes, those bacterial cells, really impacts how we feel and operate around the day. And that includes our children. So there's two parts to this, really, and one is balancing those microbes so that they are ruled by beneficial bacteria, more probiotics in the gut than pathogenic or opportunistic. And the second piece is getting those macronutrients dialed so that your eater feels really good in their body and their mood stabilizes all day long. And people comment all the time about my children. They just can't believe it. Like with both of my babies nursing in between sessions, like they don't cry because my nutrient dense milk is so fatty that they're in light states of ketosis and they burn fat and they don't need me until they need me. And it's really amazing. They're very alert. They're very observant. They have very good pincer grabs, right? They understand the kinesphere of their body. And I attribute this 100% not to my genes, but to how my genes are expressed because of the environment I've created for my children. And that is what I teach here. And it is a message that I cannot help but spread because it makes life easier and better. And we all want that loving family unit. We all want things to be peaceful and feel harmonious at home. And I don't think that food is the only piece of the puzzle, but I think it's a really big one. And I think if you're struggling, it's a great inroad to start to make some changes in your life, especially if you're called to it, because this kind of thing is like a grassroots movement. Obviously, we're not in the majority here. You know, it's not like everyone understands what the heck is going on with using food as medicine. They just don't. My family doesn't understand. Some of them are starting to catch on. My mom's getting there. My dad's getting there. But the point of that is that we are not the majority. So if you're called to it, you're getting that whisper for a reason. This is a grassroots movement, healing our children with food and really changing the food culture in the United States and globally as well, although not everyone has as much work to do as we do in the States. But it's really amazing. So if you're in any way like just hearing this little whisper, oh, I want to try something, I want to make it a little better, I'm so happy that you're here and I'm so happy to help you because I've been where you were. You know, I've been like never buying organic before. I have never heard about the microbiome at one point in my life. You know, I didn't grow up eating organic. I grew up eating Captain Crunch. I grew up eating Pop-Tarts. You know, I grew up eating pizza rolls. I drank Diet Dr. Pepper through college, So I made these changes a lot later in life, but that's fine because I made them and I feel so much better. My life has changed and my children are beautifully thriving, right? And we still had stuff to work on because I told you about Augie's birth and, it was just like a whole nother layer that I needed to learn. All right. So I think that kind of covers the introduction to picky eating and why I think it's such a problem. I guess I could just tie it in a little bit more with the gut microbiome piece. So when we have an imbalance of pathogens, so when more like bad gut bugs take hold in the gut, they have cravings. And those cravings are for sugary things, specifically yeast loves sugar. So sugar, like I said in the beginning, can be like sweets, honey, table sugar, fruit. It can be broken down, and it can also be things like whole grains, rice, pasta, carbohydrate foods, not vegetables usually because they're savory. But that starchy, sweet potato, those kind of things can feed the pathogenic imbalances. And so when our children are only eating carbohydrate foods, even ones that are typically healthy, they're not getting enough proteins and fats. Their brain is starving, their inflammation is high, and they're on the blood sugar roller coaster. All the meanwhile, we're feeding these gut bugs who are saying like, feed me more, just feed me more. What do you mean you're not going to go for that cake? Just grab it, And I think that with this frame of the gut microbiome, you can start to understand like, oh, this isn't my child, or this isn't my child's behavior. It's the gut microbiome behavior. And it creates like a little space in the relationship, right? Like, it's like, oh, cool, I can deal with the gut microbes. I can't deal with my kid having this meltdown right now, but I can deal with the fact that it's these gut microbes that I just need to do a little balancing with. I need to nurture a little bit more. I need to support in order to bring some vitality and some life back in. And children heal so quickly. It's amazing. A lot of adults get jealous because like they just heal so fast. And adults, we have to deal with our problems for a little bit longer, right? But children heal quickly. And so in my course, which is on sale for $199, $100 off, plus free bonuses through tonight, you are going to get 4 lessons where I break this down for you. I talk about why you have a picky eater, what to do about it, how to create boundaries, how to hold your boundaries, how to interact at birthday parties, how to travel, how to cook. All those things are included in the course, and it's a really slow moving course that moves you through the stages. It's very effective. And I just spent the last couple months editing it and like rehearing all of it, joining you all in the process of taking the course so that I can make it even better. And I finished that, and it's just wonderful. It's so, I was really nourished by it, hearing it all again. And my husband is also a part of the course, and he worked for 10 years as a behavioral therapist with children with autism, and he's also a nutritional therapy practitioner, and he does whole animal butchery. So we come together as mom and dad, parents, and husband and wife to share this information with you as a couple, or with just you as the mom or the dad who wants to take in this information and start to make the changes in your family. Okay? So I'm going to get to your questions. Go ahead and put any questions you have about picky eating, the gut microbiome, digestion symptoms in the chat. I'm going to scroll up and get some of these ones that came in earlier. And I also have some pre-questions from my question box that I'm going to answer for you all. Okay, I think I'll start up here. All right, so is local non-organic produce better than store-bought organic? Good question. So what I would recommend you do is get local produce and talk to the farmers, talk to the people who are growing the food, and ask them, are you using sprays? Because it might not be certified organic. It might be grown organically with no certification, which is the best case scenario, because When we have food that is grown locally around us, it has the same circadian rhythm, it sees the same light as us, it doesn't travel, it's picked at optimal ripeness. This is the kind of food that we want to have on our plates because it's the most nutrient dense. And if you're already spending money on organic food, you want it to be full of nutrients and non-sprayed. So why do we want to try to opt for non-organic vegetables and fruits as much as possible? Because they are heavily sprayed with antibiotics in the form of pesticides. Every time you eat non-organic food, you are going to consume pesticides. This is unfortunate. However, the loophole is if you talk to your local farmer, they might not be certified organic, but using all organic practices, and you're getting it for a better price or an even less price. So this is a tricky situation because we all want to be able to afford food, and we all deserve to eat food, even if deserve to eat food and not be poisoned, even if we can't buy organic. Like, that is just a human rights issue and should definitely be addressed on a national level. Until that happens, parents, mothers need to arm ourselves with as much information as we possibly can, which is why I create my courses so that you can use what I teach you and apply it to your scenario and make the best decision possible, right? So if you can only get non-organic vegetables, one of the things you can do is you can ferment them. And there was a study that showed every day the kimchi, it was non-organic cabbage sprayed with glyphosate. After 7 days, they started testing the level of glyphosate, and each day that they tested it, the levels went down. So that's one of the ways that you can really protect yourself. You can add in beneficial strains of bacteria and to your family's health by fermenting your foods, and you can take out some of the chemicals by fermenting your foods at home, which is really, really inspiring. And then the metaphor of that, wow, how cool. If a fermented food that's alive with living bacteria can reduce toxic loads in a jar of vegetables, what do you think it's doing inside the gut? That's why I never teach any crazy cleanses. We don't go at it with killing or going after heavy metals. No, we work on the microbiome. You work on the microbiome cleanses itself. Okay? So that's how I would make my decision around local produce versus organic national produce. And one other piece is, if you cannot buy all organic, you need to start with your grains. Always buy organic grains because they spray glyphosate on grains at the end as a drying agent. So you are getting a huge dose of glyphosate, which is antibiotics, with your non-organic grains. Start there. It's a great place. Just buy grains in bulk, buy them organic, start there. Does Addie need me?
No, just drop behind you.
Oh, okay. All right. 2-year-old dislikes meat, but he drinks stock. So I don't really know. I probably need to know more about your situation. I would make sure, is it a texture thing? Is it really what stands out to me is zinc. So zinc is a mineral that we need to make stomach acid. And if zinc is absent in the body, and guess what? Zinc comes from meat. So if your child has not eaten a lot of meat in his life, then they would need to have zinc in order to create stomach acid and might have a deficiency. So it's kind of a tricky one to get around, but since your child likes meat stock, I would make lamb meat stock and make sure he has lamb meat stock every single day, and give him the lamb meat stock before he eats his meals every time, because it's high in zinc. If that doesn't work, I would go with something like apple cider vinegar as well to help him increase his stomach acid. You can give him, oysters are high in zinc, which is a funny one, but there's oyster supplements, so you could put that in the meat stock so that he could increase his zinc. And then I would try all the food-based things first. It's also the sensory mineral. So if they're having trouble with meat from like a sensory perspective, that also stands out to me as a zinc deficiency. And this is so cool because it's like, wow, we can balance our children's minerals and their body functions better. Imagine that. So you're using the food gradually, building up with the amount that you're giving them to balance the mineral deficiencies. And if none of that works after, I would give it like a couple months of really diligent trying. And then you can use a zinc supplement for a short period of time just to get his stores up so that he can produce his own stomach acid and better digest the meats. I see this a lot with adults who've been vegetarians for a long time. They're like, meat just sits in my stomach. Meat feels so heavy. I don't want to have meat, etc. And I'm like, well, let's work on your stomach acid production and see if that changes anything. So I would do the same for children. Next question is, my 12-month-old has meat stock and fatty meats, but only 3 to 4 spoons at each meal. That kind of sounds like a good amount for a 12-month-old. I mean, especially eating other things, I would just keep offering, keep encouraging, and not be too worried about your child, because they know how much to eat, especially if she's still, or he is still drinking meat stock, breast milk, I mean. What's my favorite recipe for a picky eater? Probably the homemade chicken nugget recipe, because it's so freaking good. And every picky eater pretty much likes chicken nuggets. We have a cook along with that in the course. It's very fun. Cook alongside me and make a delicious chicken nugget or steak nugget meal that you have. Let's see. Another question I saw here. Can you please say this live? Yes, I already said that one. Amazing. Is it okay to eat rice on occasion with an animal-based diet? I've been trying to eat seasonally, and my toddler, who has done mainly animal-based since starting solids, we found your page at 6 months. Hello, fellow Kate. Is it okay to eat rice on occasion with an animal-based diet? Yes. So that's going to be totally individual. I can't really say for you. If you feel good in your body occasionally eating rice, then yeah, I would say it's totally fine. I would recommend properly preparing the rice, meaning soak your rice for 24 hours to pull out some of the anti-nutrients, and yeah, enjoy. We shop at farmers market for organic produce and vegetables that are in season. Wonderful. That's awesome. So do we. What? Okay, I'm not even a mom, but the work you're doing is so helpful and important. Thank you. Glad you're here. You've helped me understand so much more about myself and my body and health. Amazing. Love it. Really loving this live. Awesome. I'm in Canada. Is it still applicable for us? Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, I don't know as much about the Canadian agriculture or food scene as I do about the United States, but I have a huge international group in my courses, and a huge UK cohort. I have a pretty big Canada cohort. So there's a lot of people that are feeling this way about food and wanting to make changes in their life and not knowing how, and then relying on the educational resources that I provide to get the answers that they're looking for. Witnessing the cravings is crazy. I agree. So, I'm happy you're here too, Sarah. Thank you. I bought your Mama Baby Biome. Does the Picky Eating course offer the same things, or would I benefit from purchasing this as well? Hello. So, if you have a picky eater and that's something you're struggling with, absolutely. When I first taught this course, I had a bunch of mamas who were already in Mama Baby Biome who joined the Picky Eater course as well, because you're hearing from me from a different perspective, from a different angle, and I'm covering things in the Picky Eater course that I don't cover in Mama Baby Biome. So the way that I created and designed this course, and ultimately the way that I think about it, is that Picky Eater's course, if you have a picky eater or you're confused about what to feed your child to be healthy, it's like the pre-step to Mama Baby Biome. So everything that you're doing in Mama Baby Biome, or you will do when you implement a healing protocol, you learn like the pre-step in Picky Eater's course. And specifically, we also go over things like boundaries. We go over things like more deeply into life scenarios, family dynamics and birthday parties, like I said, that helps you kind of integrate all this that you know about healing foods with others, or making the choice to not engage with them on that. So I think the moms who are in Mama Baby Biome and also took the Picky Eating course were just wanting to have a fresh spin on it, have some more information, and also they had some member of their family who is still dealing with food refusal, picky eating, selective eating on some level, and so they got a lot out of it, I think. Okay. My 4-year-old has a face rash that happens when she eats certain foods. Would you recommend the GAPS diet to rebuild her gut lining? What is the protocol like for a kid of her age? Yes. Hello. So absolutely. I think that anything that's coming out through the skin is very worth your time to start to work on the gut health. So with food allergies, eczema, asthma, all the atopy, the atopic march or the atopic triad, it comes back to the digestive system because so much of the immune system is inside of the gut, like 80 to 90% as much as we know now. So 80 to 90% of the immune system literally lives in the gut. So if there's inflammation in the gut, that means the immune system is also inflamed. If there's leaky gut, so when the gut's leaky, and this happens if you have like a bajillion food allergies, you actually don't have a bajillion food allergies, you have a leaky gut, which then food is leaking into your bloodstream and flagging your immune system. And your immune system is doing the right thing by saying, I need to have a reaction to this because this foreign object is all up in my grill and it's not supposed to be, right? So your immune system is acting properly, but your gut is not. So we fix the gut and then the inflammation comes down and the immune system calms down and you don't have all this crazy reactivity. That's why when people are like, I got a food allergy test and I'm allergic to this, this, and this, it's like, yeah, okay, but like also let's work on your gut health because you already knew you were having reactions to that food before you got the test. Okay, so now you have the test, nothing is really confirmed except you're maybe freaking out more because more things showed up and you just like put your whole head in a scramble. And it's really hard for moms because they're like often breastfeeding, they have to eliminate all these things and they go on these super limited diets and we're just seeing like extreme reactivity and that's way, way intense. In this case, a face rash happens with certain foods, a little bit of healing and sealing the gut. What does it look like for a 4-year-old? It looks the same pretty much as it looks for adults. We don't, that's kind of one of my things. Like you don't feed adults differently than you feed children. And in Mama Baby Biome, that's where I teach all about that healing protocol and helping you get set up to do it to be successful. And just so you know, if you haven't picked up on the pattern, we're going to have a sale on Mama Baby Biome soon. That is coming next week. So if you can wait, the sale will be happening then. Hi. I didn't see your first question, Pie Paws, but I'm glad you're here. Maybe you were just commenting that your baby's such a healthy eater, loves meat stock, all meat, avocado, 24-hour fermented yogurt. Yep, and she joined Mama Baby Biome maybe like a year and a half ago and just made so much great progress. Okay. Dolly Cheryl. My son won't eat meat stock, but I try to add it to foods. Is that okay, or should I be aiming to get him to drink it on his own? Yes, that's a wonderful first step. And you need to be getting him to drink it on its own. And I teach my favorite trick for this in the course, which has gotten a lot of kids who were not meat eaters before to start eating meat every single day, which if that's not a win, I don't know what is. The amount of moms that DM me and be like, my kid doesn't eat meat, I'm freaking out. They only want bread, starch, carbs, fruit. I can help you. You just got to get them eating some meat stock, a small amount, couple times a day, and they will be converted. What would I feed my child if he was allergic to dairy, nuts, and hates eggs? I would feed him red meat all day long, and that will heal his body. And then you just start with what you can. So you start with chicken meat stock. You don't start with dairy. You don't start with nuts. Nuts, we don't need nuts. Nuts are like not even cool anyway. Like they're just hard to digest, don't have a lot of nutrition, ancestrally not really relevant, and so it's not a big deal. But your kid can eat meat, and meat will heal his body, and it is so healthful, important, and helpful for the healing process. So you just get him on eating meats, heal and seal that gut. Start with ghee, add in ghee, possibly goat ghee, because you wouldn't want to start with cow ghee. I mean, I'm never surprised when people tell me that their kid has a dairy intolerance. Dairy is the most adulterated food in the world. It's not a bad food in any means. It's a lovely healing food. But the way that we've royally screwed it up with breeding cows and giving them antibiotics and keeping them indoors and pasteurizing milk and adding sugar to it and adding synthetic vitamins and serving it cold frozen like a treat with food dye. I mean, are we really surprised that our children are reacting to this? Are we really surprised that if you ate those foods as a child, like I did, and you give birth to someone who then shows up with a dairy allergy, like it's not really that much of a surprise. It's actually something that is really, straightforward to me. It seems like it. Yeah, so, okay. What? All right. How to stop my 2-year-old from eating fruit all... You can see my baby bra. I don't have a bra on, so you actually can't. How to stop my 2-year-old from eating fruit all day long. Right. Stop giving it to them. That may seem harsh, but the thing that you can do is just start by giving them only one serving. Replace the fruit with meats, and they're going to tantrum, and that's something that we can just deal with as parents. We can just hold it. We can hold the line, and it's not such a big deal. We can just know that by observing and holding our boundary with one small tantrum, ultimately we're going to give the child a food that makes them feel better, stabilize their blood sugar, and avoid the tantrums long term, right? So basically, remove the fruit, there's going to be a tantrum, replace it with a food that makes their blood sugar stable, avoid tantrums for the rest of the day, all day long. Because it's not just one. If they want it all day long, they're going to want it again, and they're going to want it again, and they're going to want it again. So, yeah, basically, at a point, we have to stop that as parents if we really want to change the patterns of eating. And everything that I teach in the course will help you connect that to their gut microbiome and their blood sugar regulation. When and how to introduce 24-hour fermented dairy in a 3-month-old breastfed baby that reacts with green specks in the stool. So you're going to go back to no dairy for a period of time. Let the residue leave your body. Do lots of meat stocks and fatty meats and keep your blood sugar stable. And then you're going to start with just ghee, possibly goat ghee. My breastfeeding baby has bloody stool, so I cut out eggs, soy, and dairy, and I do think we finally removed the sensitivity. Wonderful. Do I potentially have leaky gut causing him to have issues? Well, potentially you do. Causing him to have issues, I would say that, like, the way that I think about it is, like, my issues are my baby's issues, right? Because we're the same still for a period of time. So, and babies are born with immature guts, and the whole point of breast milk is to continue to develop the immune system and continue to develop the gut. It's not the whole point, but it's one of the points, nutritionally speaking, of the gut flora, and we also, or of the breast milk. And we also have really amazing HMOs, human oligosaccharides, which feed and nurture your baby's gut microbiome. So breast milk is wonderful. You cut out those foods, so you're seeing less sensitivity. Wonderful. If he still reacts to certain things, or you have any immune, skin, allergy, fatigue issues, it's worth working on your gut. And I teach you how to do that as the breastfeeding mom in Mama Baby Biome. And then I teach you how to start solids as well. My 4-month-old developed eczema. Should I work on my diet? Yes. How long do I just do meat stock when first starting solids? Like a couple days. Hi, we have an autistic 4-year-old that loves bread. He wants to bake it and eat it constantly. Do you recommend a different flour that maybe something to make the change easier? For that situation, what I recommend is just adding in. So yes, I mean, there are better than flours. You could do a sourdough, which would be really much easier for him to digest, pre-digesting any of the flour for him. You could get a fresh milled flour, which is going to have more of the nutrients. And then in this case, you definitely want to add in. So what can you add into his diet that's going to make it more nutrient dense before you take anything away. And that's really cute that you guys like to bake together. I love that. What do I do with the leftover bones meat after I make stock, specifically the necks, feet, and knuckles? Well, they don't have much meat on it. I mean, the necks, I pull off the neck meat and eat it sometimes. I pull off the skin and fry it. The feet and the knuckles don't have much meat, so if I've made a batch of meat stock, I'm not really worried about wasting. Okay. All right. Was that the end of my questions? Any more questions? Okay, let's see. How long... Okay, I got that one. Can easily get my 2.5-year-old to eat eggs, dairy, and meat, but I can't get her to try some meat stock. Any tips? We've tried warm liquid, cold jelly multiple times. Yeah. One of my tips is to drop meat stock with a medicine dropper into your mouth. Any ideas for sensory bins for young toddlers that aren't food-based? Nature is my favorite. I don't know if you're the one who sent me the email, but nature is my favorite sensory bin for babies. I just think like outside, I mean, they are going to experience so much through the air, through the wind, through the rain, through the dirt, through the sand, through the leaves, through the everything, like butterflies, birds. Nature is the best sensory bin in my opinion. So I'm glad I got to answer that question for you. I'm sorry, I may have missed it, but my nephew is lactose intolerant. What does this mean? I was thinking of trying a small amount of raw milk products. So lactose is milk sugar. When people are lactose intolerant, that means they're having some level of reaction to the sugar, which is in milk, which is different than CMPI, which is the cow milk protein intolerance. However, both have to do with the gut and both have to do with the immune system. So when you're lactose intolerant, all that means is that you can't properly digest lactose, you can't properly digest milk sugar. I would say that's like the majority of people, especially if you're drinking pasteurized milk. But just by going to raw doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be more digestible. For some people, that's enough. What I do on the GAPS nutritional protocol and what I teach is people to heal and seal their gut microbiome, to heal and seal their gut, to support their gut microbiome, and to use lactose-free dairy, which means you ferment it for 24 hours, to start to reintroduce dairy before you go to lactose. I hope that answers. Can my 8-month-old gnaw on medium rare steak? Heck yeah. My husband was allergic to eggs as a kid. Should I avoid eggs when introducing foods to my baby? Probably not, but I would definitely recommend using my Baby Biome First Food Plan anytime there's allergies in parents, or it doesn't necessarily mean that the allergy is going to show up in the kid, but it's definitely a good idea to work on the gut microbiome, because what that shows is some level of leaky gut in the parents. And so by doing that, you just ensure that the allergy wouldn't exist. And I teach how to introduce eggs very methodically with just a small amount first. Any suggestion on a diet for neurodivergent kids? Absolutely. Everything that I teach on my page is so wonderful for children who are neurodivergent, have an autism diagnosis, have ADD. The GAPS diet is fantastic. It was founded by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, who in the 90s, her son received an autism diagnosis. She changed her diet. She changed his diet, changed the whole family's diet. She founded the GAPS nutritional protocol, which is based on a specific carbohydrate diet. So I suggest looking that up. And everything that I teach here is rooted in that research, and so it will be very, very powerful for your children. And you can start in the Picky Eater course to learn like the pre-steps before you would just change everything over. My toddler's sensitive to red meat, gives him eczema, and how do I reintroduce? So remove it for a period of time, heal and seal. If you can do lamb, that would be great, or heal and seal with chicken stock, and then reintroduce meat in the form of meat stock, a small amount, and go from there. I teach about that in Mom Baby Biome. Yay, I'm so glad you've been making meat stock. That's wonderful. Do I drink coffee? I do not drink coffee. I have been off of coffee for years, but my husband does, and I would just recommend adding fat to it, like butter or heavy cream. After stock meats and fats, what's the most important? Fermented brines. All right, y'all. Well, I hope that you decide to join us in the Picky Eating course. It's very worthwhile for your time, a very great deal on sale through tonight at 11:59, and maybe we'll do more of these lives. This was pretty fun. Thanks so much. Why add fat to coffee? Because it will help you digest the caffeine more slowly. I eat raw oysters while I was pregnant. We'll talk more about oysters next time. See you.